passage, read the underlying areas to get your answer. Next question, go to passage, read the underlying areas to get your answer. Is it clear? Okay, the next is the techniques. So in reading, we have a number of techniques we are going to go through. Okay, now under techniques we have these 6 areas we are going to understand better. The first is the paraphrase. You already know what paraphrase it is? The practice of restating information using synonyms as written exactly right. Now in reading and listening test, paraphrasing okay. Now paraphrasing in listening and reading tests moves from words to figures, or figures to words, or words or figures to fractions or percentages, or words or figures to general terminologies. So let's understand how this plays out, how all of these play out. The first is how words are being paraphrased to figures. You may read a passage and the passage talks about something happening every half an hour. Now, this is what is written in the passage. Now, when a question is to be drawn from this sentence, because there is a word here somewhere in a sentence that is supposed to be answered, the question will not mention this that. The question will say every 30 minutes. You understand? So when you read 30 minutes, you're going through the passage very carefully, looking for 30 minutes. You never see it. It's already written. You may also get to see that a question says he had to spend about $1 to achieve a change of his ticket or scheduling of the ticket. He would look for $1, or you go to the question. Now, if the answer is rescheduling, to mention this dollar, it might, you will see the question will talk about 100 cents. And you are busy searching for 100 cents in the past, not knowing that paraphrasing has taken place. 100 cents is equivalent to $1. Right? So these are ways people tend to miss answers because they feel there is nothing about 100 cents in the passage. They have concluded that answer is correct. Whereas it's just there staring at them. Right? So you just have to be open-minded. Paraphrasing plays out very highly in reading and listening text. Then for figures to words, the reverse can play out. Right? So you need to understand how these guys are being reshuffled or arranged. So you'll be able to spot where your answer is hidden and repeat. Now for words or figures to fractions or percentages, you might see this popular example I use, which is a quarter. A quarter can be paraphrased to word again as what? One third is not a quarter. In two. A quarter is simply one quarter. It's just a that can be paraphrased, right? Now, this a quarter, how do we, or how do you think it might be paraphrased to fraction? 1/4. Okay. So you might notice that your passage has something about 1/4. That's fraction. Whereas the passage, when it wants to treat or ask question from this particular section of the passage, it will paraphrase it to a quarter. Or summarize 1/4. 1/4, it's still the same thing as word and then paraphrase to fraction. Then, how else can we paraphrase this guy to percentage? Let's look at 25%. Right? 25, 25, 25, right? So this can be paraphrased, whereas what you have in your passage is 1/4. The question is saying 25% of the total money has been earmarked for capital project. 25% of the total money, whereas the passage says a quarter of the budget. Paraphrase. A quarter of the budget has been fixed for capital projects. So you are looking for 25%. There is nothing okay, then you also find out these guys, words or figures to general terminology. So let's look at scenarios such as this. Okay. In 60 seconds, could you please think out possible ways this information here may be paraphrased in 60 seconds? And once you are 100% sure, you're right. All right. So let's begin. These are possible ways paraphrasing can play out during your reading and listening test. Moving from words or figures to general terminologies. And because of things like this, a lot of people don't get to realize where the answers are because they hope that questions should be asked using the exact words in the passage they read. So when a question has to do with every day, the question will never use the same word every day. It might use what? Daily, or on 24 hours basis, right? Every week, weekly, or 7 days, right? Every 2 weeks, every 2 days can be bi-weekly or fortnightly, right? Every month, monthly or what? 30 days. Okay, we're not going to use 30 days because February does not have 30 days. Yeah. So you use 4 weeks. Every 3 months, quarterly. Every 6 months, biannually. Okay, nearly 25. Nearly 25 can be about 2 dozens. And then here says nearly 25. That does not give us precise. And then about 2 dozen does not as well pronounce exactly 2 dozens. 20 persons. How might this be paraphrased? A score of individuals. 20 persons. Every year can be written as what? Every year can be written as yearly or Every 2 years can be written as biannual. Biannual. 10 years of existence. 8. 30. Okay. 30 years is 3 decades. What about 100 years? A century. Right? A millennium? 1,000 years can be written as what? A millennium. Okay. Remember, millennium has 2L and 2N. Okay, so these are possible ways. These are possible ways paraphrasing can play out, both in listening text and in the reading text. So please build these as part of your newly added vocabularies to your VCA bank, so that if you find things like this, you won't feel they are strange or they are not there. They are actually there, but it's paraphrased. Exactly. Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is skimming. You need to pick up, right? Pick up from where we are. This is the first house before we enter the tree. So let's pick up from skimming. What is skimming? What's skimming? Okay, yeah. Skimming is a fast reading technique. Skimming is a fast reading technique of going through information. We go from this guy right now. Skimming is a fast reading technique of going through information with the aims of completing your reading within the shortest time possible, and also having a grasp of what has been read. Within the shortest time possible, and also having a grasp of what has been read. Now, in skimming, you don't read to have the full gist. No. Rather, you are trying to scout for the primary ideas that will give you a clue of what it's all about, right? But you are still glancing in between lines at very fast pace. That's what you need if you want to complete your IELTS reading test. Right? Don't go through your reading passages like you're reading Nigerian newspapers. You won't complete it. you need to learn to skim and improve on your skimming skill. Now, for skimming to be successful, you need to apply underlining, since you are not taking your time to read. So once you are going in between lines at very fast pace, when you find key information or major words that are potential answers, what do? You need to underline. So what does underlining mean? This is the practice of ruling under words or phrases or sentences that you find to be potential answers. Right? Underlining is a reading practice or is a practice of ruling under words, comma, phrases, comma, or sentences that you find to be potential answers. But what do you underline? Is everything you see that you underline? You do that when you are looking for answer, you don't know where to look at. It's everything is underlined. So, but there are key things you need to underline so that they will give you a clue that this is where my answer is. So, what do we underline when we are reading? You need to underline names of the key players. Names of the key players in the issue of discourse. Now, these key players might be researchers, they might be inventors, they might be victims of a particular situation, right? They might be anything, but they are the major focus in that particular passage. So underline their names. Secondly, you need to underline location, the name of the place where that particular thing is being, right? Wherever be the place or whatever it is that is being talked about in the passage as the location where that particular situation or scenario or idea is first founded or discovered. Identify that location is a potential answer. You also need to identify data. Data has to do with dates, periods, such as centuries, 19th century, 18th century, 20th century, and all that. Periods. You also need to identify or underline duration, how long something lasted. Duration. You need to identify value, the number of people involved, or the number of people that got affected, or the number of people that died in the process. Right? Value. This involves number. Right? Close your bracket. Then, what else do you need to underline? You also need to underline anything that has to do with budget, financial implications. Maybe how much it would cost people to afford a newly invented gadget. Or how much it would cost governments to combat a particular situation to the barest minimum. Right? Those are potential answers. You also need to identify how problems are solved, or how problems are to be solved, or how problems were solved. Identify or underline how problems were solved, or are being solved, or should be solved. You need to underline. Okay. Now is you renting? Okay. These are major things you want to also add. You need to underline ideologies, thoughts, ideologies, thoughts, and inventions or innovations of the key actors in the passage. Their ideology, their thoughts, or their innovations or inventions. They are potential answers. Please, do we understand this? Yeah. Now let's proceed. When it's about underlining, you can use your pen or your pencil to underline on that your passage when you're written. There is no special mark awarded for returning your question paper being very neat. You're not getting an extension. So why don't you use it to get your answers right? Right? So it's better you apply it. If you're doing a computer-based test, you can also apply your underlining, but not rolling on the screen, but highlighting the key information. The good thing about the computer system and with regards to highlighting or underlining is when you highlight, you can as well drop a note on the highlighted information. So when you want to confirm what that highlight is for, just click on the note. It will remind you of what you had in mind when you do it. If you want to make it a particular answer to a question, when you highlight it, you just have to drop the note that this answers question. That's for you during the computer based. Right? So that's about the highlight. I mean,
before going back again to read it again.
To read again. So you have skimmed before. You're going back to skim. Scanning means spotlighting or searching through information for the purpose of locating where an answer is situated. You understand the difference? Yeah. Scanning is the practice of spotlighting or searching through an information for the purpose of locating where an answer is situated. So in scanning you don't read. Don't waste your time. You are like,
that's true, right?
Yes. That's scanning. So it's the practice of spotlighting or searching through an information with the primary purpose of locating where an answer is situated. Taken? Okay, now let's go to the next. When do you scan? When do you scan?
After skimming. After skimming.
When you're answering.
When you're answering.
Thank you. At this point, when you have read your questions, identify the keywords in the question, and you underline those keywords, then you go to the passage and you are reading. When you're reading and you see or find information that's referred to or relate to those keywords you underline, or in the passage you underline those, the whole of those parts. Then when you're done reading the passage and doing all the underlining or potential answers, you now go back to the questions, but this time you're taking it one question at a go, right? So when you scan through, when you read the question one, you need to get your answer, right? So you go back to the passage and scan through those underlined areas of your passage to get your answer. Please, do we understand this? Now let's go to the next technique in reading. It's called jotting, labeling, and or making notes. What does jotting, labeling, or making notes mean? This is the practice of giving tags, title, caption, topic, theme to paragraphs you have read based on what you understood from which. It is a practice of giving tags, caption, title, theme, topic to each paragraph you read based on what you understood from the paragraph. Does this make sense? So when you read a paragraph, there is an information that paragraph is passing across. So in your own word, quickly give a tag to it. In your own word, give a tag or give a title beside it. It's the easiest way to treat matching heading. Because when you have paragraphs that you have read, this is paragraph A, or it may not be labeled, maybe paragraph B, paragraph C, now, when you read this paragraph, what information or message is this paragraph trying to pass across? In your own words, you will just title it here. The fastest means of this is you giving or labeling this the whole of whatever you read. That's what it's trying to do. That's what it's actually passing across. Do you understand this? Then the next one you read, after reading, what information would you use to caption this particular paragraph? You write. An adventure to the point of no return. I think there's a place called Point of No Return in Lagos, Badagry. So maybe he's talking about that particular scenario. You just roll your bones and get that wind. That's it. Right? So everything is being encapsulated into this idea called point of no return. Then you read this guy, give a tag. You read this guy, give a tag. Now, once you're done reading all the paragraphs and giving them tags, if that particular passage is meant for matching headings, this is what happens. At the end of the passage, you will realize that there are headings that you're meant to use you would use to match each of these paragraphs as what best describes the message. These headings are your questions. So now, once you have these tags already, when you go to these headings, if you read the first heading, you realize that one of these things you've written is very close to the heading. So it's easier for you to say, okay, this guy is very close to this, so I'm giving it to this part. Do you understand? But if you don't do this, this is what happens. When you don't give tags to your paragraphs, and you read this paragraph, you read the paragraphs, everything, when you come here and read this thing, you must begin to scan through it to look for which one you want to give to it. You don't have that time like that. So you need to manage your time. Right? It's very important. So that's the importance of the jotting, labeling, or making notes during your reading test. Now let's look at the last one, which is called the ruling or crossing out. What roles do those guys play? The ruling or crossing out help you to manage your time. They help you to manage your time. I call them time management techniques. How do they play out? When you have paragraphs labeled A, B, C, D, E, F, or to any number or letter, now you are meant to identify which of this information can be found in one of these guys. Yeah? You read an information, not heading per se. An information. So you'll be required to identify which paragraph has something to do with this information. Maybe this information is in a way talked about in this paragraph, or this paragraph, or this one. Now you're supposed to identify if this information is being discussed here. That means your answer to 40, maybe 40, let me say 21, it has I, right? So for this 21I, which paragraph has something to do with the information of I? If it is paragraph C, that means answer to 21 is what? C. Are you following? Now, for you to find this C as your answer, you must have scanned through this guy, right? If it's not here, what you do, you come over here, right? If you don't find it here, you come here. Now, when you find it, you go and write. The next question, question 22, when you read the heading or information, if you scan and you don't find it, you scan, you don't find it, you scan again. If you don't find it, you come here, maybe you find it as D. So you write as D. On your answer sheet, you won't see 21I, 22I, no. But on the question paper, you see them like this. But what you need to do is, on your answer sheet, 21 goes as you should not write I, because it will make your answer incorrect. Now, let's assume you have scanned through the 3 paragraphs and found this answer. For the fact that you spent another time to scan through this guide, you have wasted a precious time. So what does ruling or personal do for you? When this answer is given and you write it, use your pen or pencil to apply strokes to indicate that this guy has solved. So when I'm searching for answer to question 22, when I scan through this guy and I don't find my answer, if I go through this guy and I don't find my answer, I won't have to read this guy again. I'll skip it and come here. Do you understand this? Now, if this guy gives me my answer, I also apply the same striking out. Good. Now, for that to happen, you will always see that instruction that says NB. You may use any letter more than once. Whenever you're going through your instruction and you see this, means 1 or 2 of these paragraphs will solve what I'm going to say. Do you understand this? So your answer to number 21 may be C. Answer to number 24 may still be C. But it doesn't follow each other immediately. Do you understand? If 21 gives you an answer, 22 will not still come from C. You'll find maybe 22 in another paragraph, 23 in another paragraph, or 23 might be C. But it doesn't follow each other. Okay. So, but even at that, when you apply this stroke or strokes on each paragraph, it doesn't tear away the information contained therein, right? It only gives you an indication that they have used it once. So for you to consider using the same paragraph as another answer, you should go to others first. When you don't find in any of those, then you come back to start, right? So this guy, by the time you have indicated here and here, you now have 1 and 2 as the next places you should be looking for answers. Is that correct? So that helps you to manage your time. So you need to learn to apply the ruling or crossing out techniques. Please, do you have any questions?